Today, we're going to dig into something that's, well, it's a quiet but absolutely deadly phenomenon. We're talking about how a company that looks perfectly successful on paper can completely fall apart before anyone even notices a dip in the numbers. This quote really gets right to the heart of it. It points to a critical truth about why so many businesses fail. A truth that, for some reason, gets overlooked all the time. Okay, so imagine this. There's this mid-sized company over in the UAE. The books look great, projects are lining up, everything seems totally healthy. But then, in just 6 short months, it's a disaster. People are leaving in droves, there are lawsuits, projects are frozen. The company looked perfect on the outside, but it was basically rotting from the inside. And here is the total disconnect. On paper, right, the financials were telling a story of stability. It was all business as usual, but the reality on the ground, in the hallways and in those quiet conversations, was a full-on collapse. The data was lying. So this is the big mystery we're going to solve today. How could the CEO be so completely blindsided? Well, the answer is all about what he was measuring and, maybe more importantly, what he was totally ignoring.
So here's the crucial point. The CEO was looking at what we call lagging indicators. Financial statements, revenue reports, all that stuff tells you what's already happened. It's like driving while only looking in the rearview mirror. The leading indicators, the ones that actually predict the future, are all about your people. And this, right here, is the absolute key. The behavior of your people, how they act, what they do. It reveals everything you need to know about the health of your company. And it'll tell you the story 6, maybe even 18 months before it ever hits the balance sheet. All right, so let's put on our detective hats for a minute. We're going to examine the first set of clues. These are the red flags that signal a major failure, starting right at the very top.
This is it. This is the single deadliest sign. Forget everything else for a second. When your best people, your top talent, start quietly heading for the exit, the collapse has already begun. They are the canaries in the coal mine. And here's why their exit is so devastating. According to Gallup, high performers can drive almost 2/3 of a company's total output. When they walk out that door, they're taking critical knowledge, key client relationships, and all that morale right along with them.
Okay, moving on to our next clue. When you see managers who stop taking responsibility, they're blaming HR, they're dodging tough conversations, they're letting poor performance slide, they're basically giving up on the company's future.
And the impact is just massive. Get this, McKinsey found this lack of accountability leads to 5 times higher turnover. 5. And that's not just a number, It's a direct measure of decay. It shows a complete breakdown of trust that starts right there in the middle and just infects the entire organization. Which brings us to a related and just as toxic problem. If behaviors like shouting or playing favorites or publicly shaming people are tolerated, well, you create a really simple equation. Your best employees will leave quietly, while your worst ones get to stay loudly. So let's see how this all builds up. See, leadership failure doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It actually creates cracks in the company's very foundation, and that leads to a total systemic breakdown. This is such a fatal mistake. When HR is just seen as the department that handles payroll and paperwork, it means nobody is thinking strategically about the most important asset you have, your people. So all the critical stuff like workforce planning, succession, culture, it just doesn't happen. And a huge symptom of this is a fake performance system. If promotions are based on politics or who you know, instead of on clear data and KPIs, you will kill motivation faster than any financial downturn ever could. It just tells everybody that hard work doesn't actually matter here. So what happens when all your good people leave and the system is broken? Well, hiring becomes an act of desperation. You start hiring in a panic without really evaluating anyone, and you end up choosing connections or cheap labor over actual talent. It's like injecting a slow-acting poison right into the company. All right, now for our final set of clues, and these are often the quietest, but they are absolutely the most telling signs of all, the ones that show you the very soul of the company is just fading away. A recent Gallup report is just staggering. Nearly 60% of employees are quietly disengaged. That means they're doing the absolute bare minimum to not get fired. And when people stop caring, the company just stops breathing. You'll see it in more sick days, complete silence in meetings, and 0 new ideas. The most dangerous culture isn't always a bad one. Sometimes it's a fake one. It's when you've got posters on the wall with words like integrity and teamwork, but everybody sees leadership acting in the exact opposite way. That kind of hypocrisy just destroys trust instantly.
So let's go back to our case study, that company in the UAE, and let's see how all these clues solve the mystery of its sudden, shocking collapse.
I mean, the verdict is crystal clear. While the financial reports looked fine, the people data was screaming danger. Every single warning sign we've talked about was there. The best people were leaving, toxic managers were being protected, and a quiet disengagement had totally set in. The collapse, it was inevitable. So this isn't just a story about one company that failed. It's a lesson for all of us. The real question is, how can you use this investigative toolkit to read the future and protect your own organization? Here it is, a really powerful diagnostic tool. You have to shift your focus from looking only at the profit and loss statements. You have to start actively measuring how your leaders behave, analyzing who's leaving and why they're leaving, and tracking employee engagement. Your people will tell you the story long before your accountant ever does. So what's the ultimate takeaway here? A drop in the financials, that's just the final scene of a movie that started months or even years earlier. The real failure happens the moment your people decide it's just not worth the effort anymore. So the most important question you can ask yourself is this: what story are your people telling you right now?